Timing belt replacement on a 2001 or so Chrysler 300. It's got the 3.5 high output engine in it, and I'm going to be replacing the timing belt in this thing. I'll give you a walkthrough and a step-by-step of how to do it. This timing belt replacement is roughly the same for almost all of the 3.5 liter V6 engines that Dodge puts in their vehicles, Dodge, Chrysler, whatever you want to call it. They are used in the newer Dodge Chargers and, Chrysler 300s and some of the Dodge Magnums and stuff like that from, 05 to 2010, give or take. After that, Chrysler went to the 3.6, which is just a whole nother issue. But on this particular one, I'll give you a run through on how to do the timing belt replacement, and we're going to replace the water pump and the tensioner and everything. We'll do a full service on it. So I started it without, doing videos, but I'll bring you up to speed. Basically, I've taken off this top engine cover here, which, filled in all this space here, made it so you couldn't work on anything. I took out the rad fan just now to give me a bit more space between the engine and the belt accessories. And I'm just at the point now where I'm getting ready to take off the serpentine belt and the V-belt on the other side, and then I'll work on getting that crankshaft pulley off of there, and I'll get the timing covers and stuff off, and we'll go from there. I'll bring you up to speed as I get this thing more apart. Now on this particular engine, to get your serpentine belt off, this one's got not really a self-tensioner. It's got a tensioner that you have to apply the tension to. So to get it off, you got to loosen off this 15 mil nut here. Just loosen it, just to break it free so the pulley's loose. And then on the back side down here, there's a 13 millimeter, which is connected to this bolt here, which as you back it off, the pulley will slack off of the belt, and then you'll be able to remove the belt. On the other side, there should be something similar, and I'll find it when I get over there to look for it. All right, now that all your belt assembly is out of the way, now it's time to start your battle with that harmonic balancer to get that thing out of the way. There's supposed to be a special puller that you're supposed to use. I don't think I've ever used it. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I'll end up fucking with it, and I'll figure out how to get it apart, and I'll consult back with you guys and let you know how I did it and what tools I didn't use. So after failing to come up with a creative way to get the harmonic balancer off, go to your local parts store, pick up your proper harmonic balancer puller, and use it. And it will come off without damaging anything. And there you have it. Your harmonic balancer is now free. If you have not done so already, take the time to drain your rad, because upon doing this, you are going to be changing your water pump more than likely. The rad drain on this particular car is right there in the corner below that rad line. It is dictated by that butterfly valve. Turn that counterclockwise, lefty-loosey, and it should start to drain out the bottom. Most other vehicles, if there's not in that corner, will have the rad drain over in this corner. And if that's not available, then your next best step is pulling the lower rad hose and letting it drain that way. You can now start to remove all of the bolts holding on the cover that is protecting your timing belt. And once exposed, we will worry about setting the engine to top dead center, because I have not done that yet. Okay, once you get your front covers off, you should get something like this. Now what I like to do is, once I get the covers off, I put the crankshaft bolt back in, and then I spin it around to line up all my timing marks. If you look right here, focus. Okay, if you look right there, see those two dots and that line on the camshaft? The line on the camshaft goes in between the two dots. Now if you come over to the other camshaft, same thing. Line on the camshaft between the two dots. And then down here on the crankshaft pulley, you have TDC, and you have a little nipple on the back of the crankshaft, and you line them up. If you look, I'm just off just a bit, but that's pretty damn close. So now you can release the tensioner, which is over here. I take it with the bolts because I will be replacing the tensioner. And once you do that, you can take off the timing belt, replace the water pump, and then you can put your new timing belt back on. So we'll have more info on that. And yeah, this is basically what it looks like once you get down in here. It ain't that scary. Oh, and just for reference, this is what I'm speaking of right here is just me regurgitating my own knowledge. When you buy the timing belt and water pump kit, it comes with the kit, with the belt and everything, and somewhere in here is probably instructions with a diagram of how to do your timing belt setup. But, you know, oh, I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Because I just, like I say, I'm just regurgitating my own information because I've done so many of these. Well, I'll say, there we go. See? Focus. Come on. There we go. See? You got the dot between the two dots. You got the dot between the two dots. And then you got the water the marks over here lining up. See, and then it's just showing you shit with the tensioner and la-da-da-da-da. But yeah, this is about it. Check for engine damage. This is if you break your thing. I've never usually seen one of these break. What I have seen, I haven't seen a timing belt break in a 3.5. What I've seen more than anything is this tensioner pulley here will fail. The bearings in this will come out of it and it ends up going sideways and your belt ends up really slack. At that point, your engine doesn't start. And usually, out of all the ones that I've done, I have not had the valves hit the pistons on these particular engines, any of the 3.5s. I mean, I've done numerous ones of those where this pulley has been taken right out of it. And I mean, luckily the person didn't sit there and try to just start, because I'm sure if you tried that, it would probably be, you know, you would probably hit the valves. But, you know, out of all the ones I've done, I've seen that fail, and usually I haven't seen the engine go. Like, I haven't seen the valves hit the pistons. But I don't know, first for everything. Maybe other people have. I've done quite a few of these and never have, so who knows. Oh no, the timing belt's off. It's never going back together again. All right, so what I like to do is I take out the 2 bolts for the tensioner, which sit over here, like the 2 bolts for the hydraulic tensioner, and I take that out because I replaced that. Now this pulley here, I'm taking that bolt out and I'm taking that off because I'm replacing that. This up here is the water pump. I'm taking that off because I'm replacing that. And then I will put the new timing belt on, and I will make sure that all my timing marks are where they're supposed to be. And then we'll put it back together, and this thing will purr like a kitten for another 100 thou. All right, so change your pulley. It stays on the bracket. You just change the pulley itself. And then up here, you take the water pump off, and this is what it looks like without a water pump. Is that it had good orange antifreeze in it, the Chrysler type. I mean, nobody's mixed and matched antifreezes. One thing you should know about antifreeze, do not mix and match. If you have orange, keep it orange. If you have green, keep it green. Do not mix the orange and green, or you end up with powdery sludge that fucking clogs up your cooling system, and that's that. You fucking suck. So, keep your cooling system clean, and don't mix antifreezes. And this is your water pump. Now, put when you get your new pump, which is here, you gotta put your gasket on it, and then you're gonna put her home where she lives and where she's gonna live for the next little while. Don't make mistakes now. This is the critical point. All right, once your new water pump is installed and retorqued to factory snug settings, you can start the install of the timing belt. Keep the timing belt tight on the right-hand side, like when you're looking at the engine, technically the left-hand side of the engine, but when you're looking at it, the right-hand side of the engine, keep the belt tight coming up to this pulley, and then keep the belt tight coming across the water pump up to this pulley, and keep all your slack of the belt down here where the tensioner is. That way when you activate the tensioner, it takes up your slack, and all your timing belt marks stay where they're supposed to be. If you leave slack over here, then once you tighten up your tensioner, it's going to move the slack from over here because of this, and your marks are going to move. So keep everything lined up, keep everything tight, and then install your new tensioner and keep your slack over there. So this is the way I like to get my belt tight before I put everything together. I use a small pry bar like so I can fit it in between the rad and the timing belt to keep the timing belt tight on the bottom of the crankshaft pulley. And while I do that, and the only reason I do that is so that the cogs don't slip on the pulley. While I do that, I keep this side of the belt tight, and then I wrap it around the pulley up here using a screwdriver. This particular screwdriver, I started from here, and I just started the belt on the cogs where it's supposed to be, and I worked the screwdriver around, and then I left it here to keep the belt tight on this pulley, so that if I screw something up over here, it doesn't release the tension on this pulley and then to that pulley, and then I start all the way back from the start. So then I ran the belt under the water pump like you're supposed to. Again, keeping it tight. And then coming over here, I used a second screwdriver, and again, I fed the belt around the pulley through the cogs. But once I got down here with the screwdriver, I kept it here for just a moment while I came over here with my hand, and I grabbed the tensioner pulley, and then I pulled the tensioner pulley and took the screwdriver from here after I took up the slack, and I wedged it where the tensioner would go, just for the time being, so that I can make sure that the belt's pretty well tight everywhere and that all my marks are where they're supposed to be. My timing mark on the crank hasn't moved. My timing mark for this pulley is right where it's supposed to be, and then my timing mark for this pulley, looking at it, it looks like it's just a bit off, but again, once the tension goes on, it's right where it needs to be. So that's it. Now, all I gotta do is not let the tension fall off of this while I remove my screwdriver and put in the new hydraulic tensioner part, which, that's the old one there, and this guy here, the one that came out, and this is my new one, which is still nicely wrapped up right here. Now, and this guy's got a pin in him and everything, so that I can install him and then pull the pin and the tension will be released onto the belt. And just in case you didn't know, do not remove the pin until after you install it. What you do have to do, or else it will not go in, is you have to pull the pin back so that this side is just about flush with the hole. That way it can go up. There's an opening, well, I got the screwdriver covering it, but there's an opening that will allow the pin to go up, but only on the one side. So you got to pull it out so it's almost all the way out, and then you can install it. Okay, now that we've got everything installed, one last check of our timing marks, which all seem to be aligned. And now it's time to pull the pin and hope that nothing moves. Well, things are going to move, but hope that they don't move out of alignment. Here comes the pin. And there it goes. And because of the way I did it, nothing really moved. So that's all you got to be aware of. Now, at this point, if you're inexperienced and you don't trust yourself, you should spin the engine over 1 time or 2 times by hands and make sure that your timing marks all line back up. But I'm confident in my abilities, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to slap it all back together. All right, now once you get all your covers back on, you can start installing your harmonic balancer again. Then you just got to put your belts on and redo everything that you did to take it off to this point. I mean, nothing to it, right? Put it all back together, have yourself a good day, drive on, be safe.